very early. So I just feel like if I hadn't gotten that mammogram, it could have been another 2 years, and I don't think it would have been stage 1. I don't think it would have been so early. So I was just, I think about it all the time and think, gosh, start even, you know, I'm an advocate for start before 40, you know, get the baseline at 37, 38. I really am such a believer in that.
Well, when you hear a story like Allison's, you almost want to start on their 21st birthday. I have daughters in their 20s, and it's like, can we start now just to do anything we can to protect them?
Absolutely.
Now, yours was a very aggressive form. It actually was so aggressive that it needed a very specific kind of chemo to treat it, and the chemo treatments, I understand, for you were just...
Yeah, it was awful.
Deadly.
It was awful. And the good news is, again, because it was so early and because it was so small, they were able to get it. I did start with a lumpectomy. Unfortunately, there was still some cancer in the margins, so they had to go back and do a mastectomy. But they did want me to go through some kind of systematic treatment, comprehensive treatment, because of the aggressiveness of the type of cancer. Again, very early, but so when I did go through the chemotherapy, it's one of those odd stories that I must have had some particular enzyme that blocked the absorption of the chemo in my bloodstream, and when it did that, it was like, gives you the impact of having like a double or a triple dose. So that one dose, I was very, very sick.
I've heard so many times that the treatment is sometimes worse than the disease itself, but you did get through it.
I did get through it.
You are a 5-year survivor now,
Absolutely.
and you've made the decision, like Allison, to walk in this year's 3-day. Why?
For me, it's a way of giving back. I think about the fact that when I didn't continue the chemo, there were other therapies for me to take. That's all because of all the breast cancer research that's been done. They used a treatment that's been done a lot in Europe. There's so many other alternatives, and I don't think even 10 years ago, 15 years ago, there would have been those options. So again, I sit here and I say, you know, people told me you can think of this as a gift and what it gives you, and I was, yeah, sure, a gift. But I do sit here and I say, gosh, I was so lucky. And, you know, it's all about getting that mammogram. And the walk for me is to raise awareness and to give back and say, if it hadn't been for all the people that gave all those years before me, I don't know if my situation would be so good right now.
You know, that's what people say to me when I ask them to support anyone who's walking in any of the 15 3-days across the country. They say, well, breast cancer's raised so much money. There's already so much that's been done. And then you hear about a 24-year-old who probably, seriously, 30 years ago might not have survived.
Exactly.
I mean, you probably wouldn't have even had the opportunity to have a mammogram at that young of age because no one would have even considered it.
Even 10 years ago. And, you know, the reason why I'm so optimistic and positive is because of everyone, like you said, who came before us, who raised this much money, because my doctor said, if this chemotherapy doesn't work, we're going to try something else. And if that doesn't work, we're going to try something else. And that's why, you know, people are living so much longer, is because of what's been raised.
And living very productive lives.
Absolutely.
It used to be that breast cancer, when I was a child, was a death sentence.
Right.
People didn't survive it, and if they did, they didn't have a good life afterwards.
Yeah, and that's what, when you hear the words, and that's another thing that I think is so important, is just to tell people that will be diagnosed, although they will probably you know, have such a better chance of survival, but that it's okay to be scared, because you always hear all the stories of how strong everyone was. I wasn't strong, I fell apart. I was a mess. But you know what? That's okay too. And
and thank you for sharing that story. We have to take a quick break, but when we come back, it's not just women who are affected by breast cancer, it's men too. And of course, the women who love them. When we come back, we're going to meet a woman who lost her fiancé to breast cancer. She's now on a mission to educate others, including herself. Stay with us.
Transportation for It's Your Call guests provided by Preferred Car and Limousine.
You're looking at video there of the 3-day walk in which my team, Team Fellowship, and I participated in. There's Beth Dupree, a noted breast surgeon from this area, and a survivor friend of mine, Kieran. I would encourage anyone who has been thinking about doing the 3-day walk to definitely do it. It is a fabulous experience. Don't worry if you haven't done anything like this before. It is well worth your effort. And if you have done it, I hope to see you out there again. As I said, I will be walking. I would appreciate any support you guys would like to offer. Just log on to the3day.org and put in my name. That'll take you right to my Team Fellowship webpage. I'll be joined by my guests who are on this special edition of It's Your Call, including Kieran Haynes. She'll be walking in this year's walk because she lost her fiance, James, to breast cancer. You're saying, wait, a guy? Yes, he was only 45, and at the time she didn't even realize that men could get breast cancer. I bet a lot of you are like her. She's now doing her best to heal by educating herself and others as well. Kieran, thank you so much for being with us, and our condolences on the loss of your loved one.
Thank you.
When I say that men get breast cancer, I mean, I've been doing these kinds of shows for years, so I'm familiar with the fact that 2,000 men each year are diagnosed. This came as a total surprise and shock to you and your fiance.
Yes, it really did. I remember it like it was yesterday, even though I tried to forget. We having a normal day, he came to me and pulled up his shirt and showed me his chest. The nipple had began to introvert. Immediately we called the hospital and they told him to alternate hot and cold packs on the chest. It was nothing.
They did not even consider the fact that it could be cancer of the breast because he was a man.
Right, right. The only reason we decided to pursue it was following weeks he started feeling pain. It was the hot and cold packs were not helping. No kind of medication was helping. So we decided to go to the hospital. That's when they did the biopsy and told him that it was breast cancer.
What was his initial reaction, and subsequently, what was yours?
We cried. We cried a lot because neither one of us knew. I had failed to be one of the women that even did self-breast exams, even though breast cancer ran in my family. My grandmother, my great-grandmother both had it. It still wasn't enough. It wasn't enough to teach him or know the signs or symptoms to tell him this is what we have to do. So we were both kind of dumbfounded, to say the least, in where to go, what to do, what steps we needed to take.
And that's one area where there aren't a lot of resources yet available, because, as I said, 1 out of 8 women will get breast cancer, but the numbers with men significantly lower, but growing. So you were even at a loss as to where to go for help, right? What did he finally end up doing? How did he treat it?
Well, we continued to go to the hospital. It was stage 2 cancer. They immediately told him he had to have a mastectomy and to remove all the lymph nodes in his left arm.